the Six Screens Telenetwork, earning the reputation of giving all the right ingredients, uninhibited, and exposing the hard, cold facts about the Watchtower Society. And now, in Disney.
Well, we got another rockin' awesome Saturday night up here in New England, and we're glad you're going to be with us. Wow, we have so much to talk about. And I've got my beautiful wife, Susan, right here. That's the pretty blonde lady you see next to me. And we're going to have a good time tonight, so stay with us. Well, there you have it. Hello, everyone. My name's Rick Farron, and this is my wife, Susan Farron, sitting next to me here tonight. And we got a great program coming up tonight on JW World News, and we're coming to you from the apostate capital of the world, right up here in Boston. And you say, well, Rick, is it really the capital of apostasy? Well, I'm going to tell you what, I believe it really is. I really do. We have a lot of apostates up here, an awful lot of them. As a matter of fact, I think I mentioned to you before, when I was down in Florida, I lived there, and we had a circuit overseer. And he said that New England's a tough place, to keep witnesses in the organization for some reason. I don't know what it is, but especially young ones. He says the young ones in New England, they just take off like a rocket when they get to be a certain age. So we have a lot of apostates up here, and we're in good company, but you're probably saying, come on, Rick, you're making me jealous. Well, Susan, when you got to the organization, did you have many apostates?
Are you kidding? I was in Chicago. That's Chicago Metro. That's 8 million people. And I had basically no one. And you know what? It's probably good, because that's when I found the Six Screens to help, get me through the rough patches. And then I met some people and made phone friends. So that's what got me going. But flesh and blood people, no. There's one other person. His name is Mark Taft. Maybe you've heard Mark on Moments with Mark here on the Six Screens. But that was it. That's all I had.
Yeah, well, Susan, I remember that. I remember when you came here. I remember when I first started talking to you. You wanted to come here to the Six Screens. Even before we fell in love with one another, you listened into the Six Screens, and you really loved what was going on here, and you loved listening to the people dialing in. And, you wanted to have some apostates out your way. And maybe you're thinking the same thing tonight. Maybe you're out in some rural part of the country or even the world, and you're saying, I wish I had some apostates near me. Don't you dare worry. I'm going to tell you right now, you are going to get a lot of apostates very soon. Friends, I'm not, hyperventilating here. I'm not looking through rose-colored glasses, but I'm telling you, people are leaving this organization like never before. Now, you're taking it from a man that's been every week. I've been doing this news, so I do know what I'm talking about. I see things. I pick up on things. Like I always say, we're like the CIA here. We're looking for intelligence coming out of the Watchtower. Sometimes they don't tell us exactly what they're doing, and they don't have to. But you have to pick up little bits and pieces and put it together. And that's what I've been doing for 17 years here on the Six Screens. I've been picking up crumbs on the road, so to speak, like Hansel and Gretel. to find your way home. And some of these crumbs can be very informative. So we're going to be talking about some of these stories tonight that is really showing us the Watchtower is in a free fall. I always say, take them off the grill. They're cooked. I don't know where they're going to go. But we're going to talk a little bit tonight here. We're going to start off with, I'll tell you what, I mean, every week I get in here and start looking through the news. I have to tell you, there's good things happening in a number of states. Friends, there's states in the United States that are really coming down heavy on the Jehovah's Witnesses. Well, in Washington State this week, they had a House Bill 1618. If you want to look it up online, just punch it in, Washington State House Bill 1618. Well, they are ticked off. They are really ticked off with the Jehovah's Witnesses. Too many witnesses are coming forward, like they did in PA, like they did in New York, and like they did in Illinois. And now they're in Washington State, and the state government saying enough is enough. So they're starting to look into it. But just this week, they passed in the House, but now it still has to go to the Senate. But they did pass in the House that there'd be no limit to bring a claim against a child molester in the state of Washington. So there you go. So now I can't imagine how many suits the Watchtower is going to really have to get involved with here. They're going to be sued like crazy. People that, time ran out so they could never file a suit. But wow, this just in Washington State alone, it's going to cost them millions and millions of dollars. So I wanted to just bring that to your attention. Now, we know that other states, New York, Illinois, and Pennsylvania specifically here. I mean, that's the big story, Pennsylvania. But these other states also are cracking down on the witnesses, and I think it's going to happen. Once you get the flow going, once you turn people's attention to this, other states, because I'm going to tell you what, a state representative, they look like a hero when they can pass a bill that everybody acknowledges that needs to be passed. I mean, let's face it. The only ones that like pedophiles are pedophiles themselves and perverted people, right? So, these guys can make big points, just like Shapiro did. And he made that announcement in Pennsylvania. He was the Attorney General when Attorney General Shapiro made the announcement. Would have been November of 2022, just 4 or 5 months ago. So 5 months ago, I guess. So he made the announcement that Jehovah's Witnesses have got a problem and they're not going to put up with it in the states coming after them. And he knew that perhaps that announcement would catapult him, because he's running for governor, would catapult him into the governor's office. And guess what? He's in the governor's office. Now, I'm not saying that bill is what did it, but it certainly helped him, because nobody likes a pedophile unless you're a perverted pedophile yourself. So Susan, what do you think about that? What do you think about these states clamping down on the witnesses?
I think it's about time. I think it's about time that they change the law regarding individuals that have been molested, and that I think they should have however long it takes. They, even if they're 65 years old and they want to claim someone did it, because that's part of the healing, is to have someone acknowledge that this has gone on in your life. Because in the Watchtower, that's hidden. It's not acknowledged ever. So this is going to be a big deal for poor Jehovah's Witnesses who have been through this.
Absolutely, Susan. Absolutely. So, I mean, that's good. Isn't that good news? Don't you like hearing that? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put, just so you folks later on, if you like to call into the program, I'm going to put our telephone number up so that if you want to dial into the program later on, the number's right there. You can see it right on YouTube and Facebook. So if you guys get the feeling you like to call in and talk about some of these stories as we go down stream here, by all means, go ahead and do that. So we started off with good news. I think you'll all agree that's good news. And I have to tell you what, if I was a Jehovah's Witness elder right now, I would be panic stricken. I really would. I would say, geez, do I want to stay being an elder? With all of this corruption that I'm seeing the Watchtower getting involved with and covering up, Do I want to be part of this mess? And then they're going to throw me under the bus if anything ever happens. Hey, if you're listening in tonight and you're an active elder out there, seriously, sit down, talk to your wife about it. Talk to her about it and say, honey, look, I want to talk to you. I got something serious. Let her know what you're hearing. Let her know. Do her a favor. Do yourself a favor. Step down. Could save you a lot of, no, not just money. It could be criminal. You could go to jail. Yeah, I'm not just saying this to arouse attention. I'm telling you the truth. They're making laws that are very stiff. And I'm not just talking, spending a weekend in the local jail. You go to a prison, a minimum security prison, where you'll be put in there for a few years. So give that some thought the next time, you're thinking about, I want to be an elder or I want to stay being an elder. Get out of that arrangement right now and eventually find yourself getting close to the exit door. Well, anyways, I'll tell you what's really buzzing around the forums this week. Convention stress. Yeah, convention stress. That's all I'm reading. They have to go back. They have to go back to going to conventions in person. No more of this, on Zoom video reality type stuff. It's got to now be done in person. So you got to get your butt to the nearest convention center. Now, they used to have convention centers pretty close. For example, here in Boston, I live in Tewksbury, but within a couple of hours, I could always get to a convention center. But now that's changing. They got brothers and sisters traveling all over the place. Now, let me just talk about this for a couple of seconds, a couple of minutes. You guys can remember conventions. Did you like them?
I did.
Some did. Susan, did you like the convention? Tell us about it.
You know what? I really did. I'm kind of a social person, so I just loved all the people and meeting new people. And I'd always talk to the people we sat around. And my former husband was part of the chairman's office, so I got to meet governing body members. And, so I didn't hate it. But the thing I did hate is that we had to bring my mother-in-law with us wherever we went. We had to sit where she wanted to sit, eat what she wanted to eat, talk to who we wanted to talk to. So the years that she came along, she made it very difficult for me. That was stress. That was true stress.
Well, Susan, it would have been, the assembly wasn't bad, but having to sit next to your mother-in-law could be a little tough. You really couldn't associate with the people you wanted to associate with, because as you told me, you had to sit in the older people section.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
So you're away from all your friends, and so that can create an issue. But the reason why I call it convention stress, it was stressful. I remember there was an elder, and he was our book study conductor. What you had to do near the end, they didn't have food, remember? Well, let's just roll the clocks back. They haven't had food in our conventions for quite a while. But I remember the year, I forget what it was, but it was probably around 1999 or somewhere around there that they stopped serving food. You could buy tickets and you could get, a hoagie, a sub. You could get a burrito. You could get your cheesecake or whatever. But then they stopped doing that and you had to bring your own food. So I remember our book study conductor saying, man, and he had 4 little kids. He said, Brother Ferrin, he says, I'm going to tell you, I miss the idea of having food at the convention. He says, I can't stand making deli sandwiches on a coffee table in a hotel room for 6 people, 4 kids, him and his wife. Imagine what a chore that is. And then what you had to do, after the convention, you had to go look around for a store that sold luncheon meat or whatever. You had to make a sandwich. So it really, that in itself was really not fun. But I'll tell you who really had it bad. I'm going to tell you who really had it bad were people. Hey, Roland, did you want to say something?
Yeah. I was just going to say, I can remember going to conventions, and I had, when I had my 2 young daughters in tow, and it was an absolute nightmare, Rick. I had to buy them new clothes for every convention. which wasn't cheap. 2 girls, you had to get them a whole new outfit. I would often get new suits for it, and to go and look the part. We'd usually go on a coach. It would take about 2 hours, 2.5 hours from where we were. We'd have to get up extremely early because the coach would set off, sometimes 6:30, 7 in the morning. So then we had to get to the point where the coach was picking everybody up, which would be the Kingdom Hall, which was about 10 or 11 miles away. So we'd have to travel up to the Kingdom Hall and then get the coach from the Kingdom Hall. All this getting you 2 young girls up at a weekend. And then, obviously the girls would miss the weekend because we'd be there all weekend. You'd be travelling home at night. You'd sit in these really hard seats in this arena, which, it was absolutely really uncomfortable and stifling in the summer because the heat was just ridiculous with all them people in. And then, of course, there was the food and stuff that you had to prepare. You'd be getting home late at night. Just about having time to sort my girls out, get them to bed, and then before you knew it, it was the next morning again. You got to do it all over again, and again the next day after that if it was a 3-day convention, and the cost and the stress that it put on us. And then of course the day after we come back from the convention, the girls would have to go back to school. Which was it was an absolute nightmare. I absolutely hated every convention we went to, and then it was just too uncomfortable and too long, and the poor girls would sit there listening to these old men going on, yawning on and on and on for hours on end. I could barely keep myself awake, let alone those two keep themselves, occupied and content. It was just an absolute nightmare. And I think the more children you got, the worse it is. It's bad enough if you're on your own, but when you've got a family and stuff and you've got to get all that together, it's just an absolute nightmare, and they don't take any of that into consideration whatsoever.
No, they don't. Well, very good comment. Always good to hear from you, Roland. Now, look, I think we got your friend calling in, the one from Kenya. Is that you? Did you want to come in? Go ahead, speak nice and clear to the phone. We have a tough time kind of hearing you, but go ahead, speak nice and close. Go ahead, you're on with us. Well, for some reason, he was on, and then he went off. I think his phone might have disconnected. But anyways, he'll come back on. So I guess we got Michigan. Michigan, you want to come in? Go ahead.
Hello?
Yes.
Well, you're talking about the conventions, Rick, and so here in Michigan, you had we went to the Pontiac Silverdome. And I don't know if there's anybody else there that went to the Silverdome for conventions, but I'm going to tell you, it didn't have air conditioning, the domed football stadium. So you always just hoped that it wasn't good, because the convention would be in, I guess it was usually in June. You just hoped and prayed that it wasn't a heat wave. I can remember a few times it probably got up, high 80s or low 90s, something like that. That place was like a sauna. It was terrible.
Yeah.
It was like a steam bath in there. You could see heat rising off the stadium. And then, it's a huge stadium, so they got a big parking lot, and they get maybe, I don't know, maybe average 35,000. You probably get more on Sunday, but one of the worst parts is you had to sit there all day, of course, and then it was a big hassle getting out of the parking lot. That was always a hassle. Because obviously, you'd be tempted to leave early so you get in your car and drive right out, but obviously you're not supposed to do that. So, it was just a big latent stadium, so, it could take quite a while. You sit there all day, you're hot, you're tired, and you got to go out. Take you an hour to get out of the parking lot. Yeah, it was a drag.
Oh, yeah. No, I agree with you, Mike. It's terrible. It's really, people have more horror stories about conventions. It's unbelievable, including myself. I have to tell you the worst. I'm going to tell you this. One of the worst events I ever went to in my life was in 1969. That was the Peace on Earth convention in New York City at Yankee Stadium. There were 120,000 people there. And like Mike was just saying, it was roasting hot. And I was just a young guy at the time. I was only like 20 years old or so. We had a little baby. I was lugging her around in the cab. Then you could even bring a carriage into the stadium. Now you can't even do it. I don't know what the people do today. But it was so hot, and then it would thunder and rain. There was nowhere to go. You just had to suck it up. Somebody could have got hit with lightning. Somebody could have been killed. There was never an announcement made, you know, brothers and sisters, if it starts lightning, you might want to get out of the way. No announcements at all. And then you could smell, you know, it's a 90-degree day and you have so many people going to the bathrooms and you could smell the smell. I mean, it was torture. It was torture. Susan, did you have something to say about the bathrooms? Yeah.
The nursing mother's bathroom, let me tell you, it would take a strong stomach to walk in there. And you had to nurse in the nursing mother's bathroom. Why? I don't know. But they had chairs there and other things for you. But I got an education being in there. Oh.
Go ahead, Susan. Hold on, sir. Go ahead, Susan. Finish up.
Well, that's just it. You know, it takes a strong stomach. In fact, I wasn't even a witness then. I wasn't much born, but my former mother-in-law told me, because she was a nurse, she said that there were people that died of heart attacks there. There were babies that were born there. And you know what? That's dangerous. That's very dangerous. How'd you like to go into labor and you're in the midst of what, 50,000 people?
Well, in Yankee Stadium was 120,000.
120,000 people in Yankee Stadium. But the Polo Grounds, there was also the Polo Grounds.
Well, that was in 58.
Oh, that was in 58.
Yeah.
But the same deal. They people were dying. They were babies born, all kinds of things. And didn't you tell me that some kids were dying of the heat and they wouldn't let them announce it?
Yeah. Now, we had a man, Susan, on this program. His name is, well, he was a doctor. And he was a psychologist as well for the Watchtower. And he dealt with Bethelites. And he's no longer a Watchtower person. He's out of the Watchtower. But he came on our program. His name is Jerry Bergman, Dr. Jerry Bergman. And he came on our program 3 times in the past. And he did mention that at one of the conventions, they had 3 little babies die from heat stroke, from being too hot. The mothers had them in the carriage and they put a blanket over the babies and it was too hot. So he said, brothers, can we make an announcement from the platform saying for the mothers, don't put blankets on the babies when it's 90 degrees, they're too hot. And they said, no, we don't make public announcements like that. Can you imagine that? I am not kidding one bit. And I'm still trying to get Jerry Bergman back on with us. But that's what he told us on the program. And that's a known fact. I think we had that brother from, well, Kenya left on us again. But I think we have our good friend Shirley on with us. Hello, Shirley.
Yeah, Rick, you will never forget that 1969 assembly. You've mentioned it so many times. It's because I was just 11 at the time. But you were grown, you had a family. I'm in New York, so of course I was there too. But you just mentioned it so many times, which of course I said I was a kid, you were a grown man with a family. And if you remember, the sessions didn't end until what, 9 o'clock or something like that? And then start again the next morning, right?
Yeah.
And they served full meals.
Yeah, they had full meals.
Yes, they did.
Oh, Shirley, and I'm going to tell you something. I'm 74 years old right now. That was one of the worst weeks of my life ever. I was so glad I had a little Rambler, a little you know those Ramblers, a little Rambler American.
Right, I remember back in the day. Yes.
Oh yeah, looked like a little bathtub. It was robin egg blue. And I tell you, I walked out of Yankee Stadium. And all the people that came down with me, we had the car packed. I brought a bunch of people down from New England. And we're all squeezed in there. And I was so happy to get home. I got in that car. I drove all the way home and said, man, I am glad that's over. It was brutal.
And you said that you stayed in if I remember correctly, because you shared the story several times, I think you said you stayed in a Holiday Inn, but like in Manhattan, somewhere in Manhattan. Did you say that?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, it was a Holiday Inn. I believe it was in Manhattan. Yes. And so I can still remember the price. I mean, I don't even know. I was a young guy. I wasn't making a lot of money. I don't even know how I afforded it then. Nobody gave me any money to go there, but I went on my own dime. But a hotel room in Manhattan at the time, back in 1969, I can still remember that Holiday Inn was $27 a night. I mean, that you can't even buy a cup of coffee and a bowl of cereal for $27 in New York City. But that's what it was. And I remember we had to get on the subway. Now, here I am carrying a little baby. She was only about I think she was about 9-10 months old. Then I had to carry this carriage. Then we had to get on the subway. and then, walk from the subway station to Yankee Stadium. It wasn't too far, but yet it was still a
It
walk.
wasn't far, yeah.
Yeah. And then I can remember, geez, I'm going, this is unbelievable. And when you sat, you had to sit there. I mean, there were so many people, you couldn't even hardly move. But I'm sure people were there. You were there. You were a little younger than I was.
I was 11. But the thing about it, back in the day, I remember Yankees. Like I'm here in New York, so I've been to Yankee Stadium Assembly many times. But it's always because of the sisters always have the kids, so they always had to change some of the men's rooms.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
for the women,
Oh, yeah.
because there was always a line, regardless. The ladies' room, no matter where you go, I mean, assembly or not, there's always a line for the ladies' room. But being that the assemblies, because the women have the kids and everything, there was always a long line. I remember they had to switch over some of the men's rooms for ladies' rooms.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to tell you, you probably remember, you lived, I don't know if I can say where you lived or not, but you're familiar with New York, but they had people camping. They were camping in the parking lot at Yankee Stadium in tents. Yeah.
That I have to say, Rick. Now, are you talking for the '69 or that 1958, the international? For '69, I have to say, if it happened, I really was not aware.
Oh yeah,
So,
yeah. They were in tents, and the rooms were filled, and if you didn't really have the money to get a hotel room, can you imagine sleeping in a tent in Yankee Stadium parking lot?
I know, with no facilities and so forth. But the thing that used to get me, Rick, and I was just a kid, but I remember this, because I was a kid, I was bored. I would walk around. Like during the session, some people would just be sitting out there on the lawn, on the lawn. They weren't inside, they were outside. Like they were at a picnic. So, and back in the day, you had to travel to New York or Washington, D.C. or Jersey. So these people, even if they were from New York, why bother to bring the whole kids and you're sitting outside like you're having a picnic while the sessions is going on? So why bother?
Well, I agree with you. No, it's, but they did not, that one was, I believe that was 8 days, or was it 7 days? I forget.
I was there. It was 7 days.
Yeah, it was
It was a short. I was there too. I was a kid.
You were a kid too, Zachary.
Yeah. It was. We went. We were there, and we stayed. We had rooming stuff, so we were supposed to stay with someone in New York assigned to the rooming department. And I think it was supposed to go. Most of these. It was international assembly, and they go from Sunday to Sunday. But that one, Yankee Stadium had a game going on Sunday. So it started on Monday.
I remember that,
so,
yeah. And it was raining. Remember, it was raining too.
I don't remember. Well, we were supposed to be staying with someone. And so, we went up and my mom rang the bell and, no answer. So we sat and waited. She rang the bell again, no answer. We saw people coming from church. She went up, rang the bell again. It was a multi-unit place. And finally, my mom asked people about it. And we were sitting outside, like a park outside the building. We could hear the game going on in Yankee Stadium coming across the river, the sound. But my mother went and we found out that the person that we were supposed to be staying with, she had died. The neighbors let us know.
Oh my goodness.
So thankfully my mom had relatives and they got in touch and we had other arrangements were made just like that on the spot. But that was it's a major convention, yeah. Major.
Wow.
Yeah, that's something.
I remember the kickoff meeting. Remember the kickoff meetings in the room we used to secure and all that stuff?
I don't remember them. Your memory is better than mine with that.
Rick, you remember the kickoff meetings and all that stuff, right?
Well, in other words, at the convention itself, or before we went there?
Remember to secure rooms here in New York, before we had a convention here, they called it a kickoff meeting, and then we started. Not like we used to go door to door for the magazines. We used to go door to door to secure a room. Like Zachary said, he was supposed to stay with a certain family.
I do.
We went door to door trying to secure secure room.
I got you with that. No, of course, people in New York would have been doing that work. But when we had a convention here back in the 50s, around 1958, we had a convention at Fenway Park in Boston. And I can remember as a matter of fact, my mother had witness people come and stay with us. But I can remember, we were all out trying to get rooms for the people coming in. Yep.
Can you imagine doing that now? They wouldn't even think of that now. They wouldn't even think of doing that.
Oh, well,
now.
no, but see, back then, Shirley, they didn't have, today is a lot of motels and hotels all over the place. But they didn't, that didn't exist back in the 50s and 60s. All of these motels and hotels you see around, and they're relatively new. They didn't have that many back then. Nobody was going anywhere. Nobody had any money to do anything. But now they do, yeah.
Do you remember
That's
too?
true.
Maybe this was just in Chicago. I don't know, but maybe this was the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s. You had to go out in the ministry on Sunday mornings. It would start later in the day so that you could go out and service. That's the part I hated. We thought with my little kids and having to work, place you didn't know. I didn't like service to begin with, so to have to do it. And of course, we had to set the example. So we had to go out and service.
Well, something I can remember that too, Susan. You had to go out and service, and you met like you did at the book studies, and would all go out and service together. That was terrible. Well, Shirley, thank you for sharing those thoughts with us.
When you did field service at those conventions, did you have to wear the placards?
Yes.
You did.
Yes, we did.
Well, thank you, Zach and Shirley, for sharing your thoughts with us. No, in fact, I got information from a man today because we're on the subject, and he mentioned to me that he slept in a tent at the convention. He said it was terrible. As a matter of fact, he said that the campsite was right next to a horse, and they had like a farm where they washed horses down and cattle in the room where they took showers. So he felt so dirty because this is the showers he had to use in the morning that they would wash the horses and the cattle down. So he said it was the worst time of his life. He couldn't believe it. He said he'd go to the convention and, your clothes are all, wrinkled. How are you going to iron something in a tent? But boy, I'll tell you what, I give those people credit that did that. Boy. Well, you're on JW World News. That's the news the Watchtower doesn't want us talking about. But I just wanted to bring this up as well. We got someone wants to come on. Go ahead. You're on with us. Area code.
I just wanted to mention that one more time, like you had mentioned that you hated the New York one. I know I mentioned this before, but in the summer of 1967 or 68, we had our district assembly in Washington, D.C. at the Senators. When the Washington, D.C. had a baseball team called the Senators, where they played. On Thursday through Sunday, we met there, and the toilets were out of order. The toilets would not flush, and they held the assembly there for 4 days. Now, just imagine that with kids, women, kids, and everything. They still went through with the assembly.
Shirley?
Yeah.
Shirley? I was there too. I was there too.
I was thinking, yes, I remember that. Because they can't do that today for health reasons, but I remember that.
We had to stay in dormitories. I think it cost something like 50 cents per night per person, and you buy one of those air mattresses, but just a really skinny one, and it had a pillow attached to it. They were blue, and I don't know what the price of that was. If it was 50 cents or $2.50 per mattress, but dormitories. And so I guess we understand why people go on Zoom now.
Well,
just the thing about it, they can't do that now and feed a football game or anything. Yeah. That's unsanitary. They would not do that now. No,
they wouldn't get away with it. They wouldn't get away with it.
Yeah.
But
one thing. Oh, sorry.
All right, go ahead. Go ahead, wrap it up, Zach, if you would.
I was just going to say to Susan, they wore placards, and I guess some some may not have seen those. Those are the things where you have like sandwich boards,
Oh, yeah.
front and back sometimes. Susan, did you feel proud when you had your placards on?
I never did the placard, but I did have the badge on, and we were supposed to be proud of that. But I never did the placards. I'm not that old.
Oh, okay.
Well, I did the placards, Zach. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, it was like a sandwich board sign, and you walk around the sidewalks with it. Yeah, I did that when I was a young kid. I kind of liked it as a kid. You know, you kind of thought it was kind of neat. Huh. All right. Yeah. Well, anyways, I just wanted to bring up that, you know, people are traveling today. If people are traveling to a convention today, just stop and think about the cost. I'm just going to give you an idea. Have you guys checked hotel and motel rates lately? Well, I have a friend, and he's going down to Florida. He wanted to go down there for a week, but he was telling me he was checking hotel prices. You know, he wanted to be near the beach. A Red Roof Inn near the beach, not even on the beach, is $450 a night. And some of the hotels are running as high as $800 a night. So you can imagine if, you know, you're going to have an assembly, a convention, even when you have to travel in Florida. Now, other places do, not just Florida. They're all up. So, you know, it can be very, very expensive. Now, friends, if you're not talking, go ahead and mute your phone. If you would, hit *6, and that'll keep all the background noise down. All right. Or I'm going to have to mute you. All right. All right. So, I mean, we're talking big bucks. The motel rates, all of this gets very, very expensive. So I want to bring that up tonight because I'm telling you right now, that's why I called it stressful. The conventions are very stressful. People are writing about it online. People are going to run up their credit cards. They're starting to even wonder how they're going to do it financially. Go ahead. I think Dick's on with us. Go ahead, Dick. Well, I guess not. All right. So listen, I'm gonna put everybody here. I'm gonna put everybody right now. Okay, Dick. Yep.
Yeah, I just wanted to give a shout out to Zachary because last week when he was on, there was somebody heckling him, and I kind of asked them both to quiet down, and that was wrong of me. The other person was attacking Zachary, and he should not have been doing that. We're not into personal attacks here. We're into exposing the Watchtower, and Zachary's given us a lot of good information on how the Watchtower works. So I'll always be very appreciative to him for that. Thanks, Rick.
Well, thank you, Dick. That's good. Yeah, I didn't hear that, but yeah, Zachary, I'm sure appreciates that and understands it. So yeah, so these.
I did. No, I understood that Dick was trying to calm things down, and he was trying to go down the middle. Yeah, I understood.
All right, good. Well, thank you, Zach. So, anyways, that's why the conventions are very, very stressful right now. And I'm gonna put everybody here on. I'm gonna go to lecture mode here because we're getting a lot of background noise, and it just.
All participants are muted.
All right. So, anyways, you can hear me. I have to mute everyone because what we want you to do, folks, when you're gonna talk, you hit *6. And then when you don't talk, you hit *6, it mutes you. Man, it would make my job 1,000 times easier. I'm trying to concentrate on the news and watching all these. And people don't want all the clicking and clacking in the background. They don't want it. People washing dishes and people have YouTube on. So when we're ready, I'll open up again. Then we can bring people on. We can talk. I hate to do that. I like leaving the lines open and being able to talk, but there's so many people to call into the network lately. We just cannot continue doing that anymore. All right. So anyways, let's take a look. I'm thinking I'm going to give you my prediction. I don't like doing predictions because I know the Watchtower always has put their foot in their mouth, but I'm going to give you my prediction. What's going to happen in the Watchtower in the next few years? I mean, I'm not a prophet. I'm not a psychic. I'm a futurist. Are you a futurist? Do you know what a futurist is? Well, what a futurist does is they look around them, they see what's happening today, and they predicate what's happening today and how it's going to happen in the future. Where is this all going to lead? So I'm telling you, I'm going to make a prediction for the Watchtower. In just a few years, you're going to see Kingdom Halls are going to be a thing of the past. You know, right now, I mean, you drive by Kingdom Hall and they're there, but they're selling them off quickly. conventions, mini hall centers will be going on. Now they'll have little mini hall assembly halls, so to speak. And then there might be some of the larger kingdom halls, like the one right here in Wilmington, Massachusetts. I believe they'll make that like a little mini assembly hall, because they still get a lot of people there, but it's a number of congregations that now go there. They're going to charge you for parking. That is going to be a known thing. They're going to try to get as much money as they can. There'll always be donations. You know, it was that way in the last few years, even when I was in, that you had to pay for parking, but they're going to make it. I'm even sure this summer when people are going to convention, they're going to have to pay for parking. The elders will play a much smaller role in the child sex abuse. They're not going to, they're not going to let these renegade elders. A lot of the elders, not all of them are willing to speak against the Watchtower, but some have, and it's really getting the Watchtower ticked. So they're going to be very, very careful. And I'm going to read you some announcements I got tonight that will actually solidify this. As a matter of fact, I got the announcements even after I thought of this. So they're going to play a smaller role in child sex abuse. And I'm going to tell you what's going on. And also I'm thinking the cart preaching work, well, that's going to replace the door-to-door work. And the number of PMEs, those are people that are physically in, mentally in, they'll continue to shrink. There'll be more and more getting out, becoming PMOs. And once upon a time, I think of this a lot. I really, really do. I bring it up here on the Six Screens numerous times. But, once upon a time, let's start it off like that. Before the internet, before satellite and cable TV, and even before color television, maybe some of you folks can remember when there was only like 3 or 4 channels and it was in black and white, and the television went off the air around 10 p.m. and then people had nothing to do. They were bored once the television went off. So for those who would like to read, well, this was a heyday of the dime store novel. People were bored out of their minds, so they're reading anything they could get their hands on. And, this is what I wanted to really emphasize, because I remember these days, and I hope you guys can too. Remember when people used to knock on your door, and it was a welcome diversion, as it could be a neighbor who was bored, and you were perhaps somebody wanted to talk to, or she wanted to talk to. They would say, come to your door and you talk to you. Or maybe she wanted to borrow some sugar. Yeah, those days, when's the last time someone knocked on your door to borrow some sugar? That's probably hasn't happened for a long time. Now, and sometimes you hear the knock on the door, could be the mailman. Now, I can remember this. I don't want to sound like an old fogey here, but I'm 74 years old. But I can remember the mailman used to come to our house. Now, he had the option of putting the mail in the mailbox, or he would come to your house, knock on the door, and hand you the mail. He could do that if you like, and then you get to chat about people in the neighborhood and what's going on. The mailman knew a lot. And then remember the Fuller Brush man? Oh, he'd come selling high-quality brushes that you couldn't find in a store. So I remember my mother buying Fuller Brush brushes. And how about Electrolux, Kirby, Hoover, Eureka representatives? These are all vacuum cleaner people. And the vacuum cleaners, it was something new back then. And it eliminated the drudgery of beating carpets. And it kept your carpets nice and clean for the babies to crawl on. And how about the Encyclopedia Britannica and Americana and Funkin' Wagnalls representatives? Well, they come to your door too. And they're trying to sell you some encyclopedias. Now, if you didn't own a set of those encyclopedias, you generally landed up buying one because your kids needed them, right? They wanted them, but of course, later on, the Watchtower said you don't need to buy encyclopedias because everything you ever want to know is in our publications. What a bunch of baloney that was. So, also the reason why I'm bringing this up, because what I'm trying to do here is give you an idea when Jehovah's Witness evangelism really took off like a rocket, and why the Jehovah's Witnesses really became as big as they did during this age. It was during this era of all of these people trying to sell things, the bread man, the milk man, all of those people coming to your door, the Avon woman, all of that. It was during that time, that era, that the door-to-door work really evangelizing door to door and really ramping it up, that's when it was born. I'd say back in the late 40s, but more so the 50s. And it worked for the same reasons as people were going door to door selling things. People were buying things. Women, they were basically home raising the children. They didn't have jobs like, most women today are working. So, they were starving for social interaction. So, anyone coming to the door was a bread man, milkman. They like to talk to them. And even when you think about it, even the witnesses I remember almost everybody would talk to you. They kind of even liked the Jehovah's Witnesses, right? Do you remember those days? People would talk to you. That really doesn't happen. Today, a knock on your door generally means something is wrong. And it's surprisingly, sometimes people get into a defensive mood. I find my way doing that. Geez, I got a knock on my door not too long ago. The lady down the hall, she couldn't get her car started. The door's knocking. I didn't know who was out there. I was even afraid, who is this? So people, they put their defenses up there. It's not like it was. So even the door-to-door evangelism of the Jehovah's Witnesses is not as effective today as it was back then. And it's even going to be less effective in the future. So I'm saying take the door-to-door ministry off the table. That is going to be like the doodoo bird. It's going away. Watchtower, it's not working. So that's why I'm saying cart witnessing. So that brings me to Watchtower's last stance is Ramapo. Ramapo, New York. That, of course, is the media mega center the Watchtower is trying to build in a rural town, so to speak. And they want to put this $500 million complex up. Did you hear me? Yeah, $500 million. That is $500 million. They've got to pull this off. They've got to get into exposing themselves online and getting people to buy their videos, getting people to sign up for their streaming. That's their last stance. Susan, what do you think? Can you remember some of these people coming to your door?
Well, when I was in Chicago, we did have the Oberweis milk man. They had milk in glass bottles, and I thought that was better for my kids. But then they started selling groceries. When you had little kids, sometimes it's harder to get out. It was nice to have those delivered. When I was a kid, I had a milkman and a bread man and the Fuller Brush Man. My mom loved the Fuller Brush Man. Then there was somebody that came and sold spices and barbecue stuff. I remember that as a kid. So yeah, but
do you remember the witnesses when you were a young girl?
Yes. Oh, my mother had a study, or she kind of was quitting on it, and she didn't want to answer the door. So we lived out in a rural area of Wisconsin, and the sister came and my mother sent me to the door, and she made me lie. And she said, "Tell the lady my mom's not home." So I said to the sister, "My mommy's not home." She says, "You mean your mother would leave you alone all the way out here with nobody?" She said that kind of loud, and I think she knew my mother was standing there. But I remember that. My mother made me lie.
Yeah. Well, Susan, I'll tell you, those were the days, but I'll tell you what, the witnesses, now some people are seeing them, they're out door to door, but it's not successful. So I want to just bring that up tonight. I'm going to open up the lines once again. If we're in lecture mode, we're going to open up the lines, and what that does is you can...
All participants are muted, and they can unmute themselves.
So if you want to speak up, go ahead, hit *6, unmute yourself, and what do you think? Do you remember those good old days? Go ahead, you're on with us.
Hey, Rick.
Yes.
Hi, I'm just listening to the whole show and the good old difficult days of those long assemblies. The Watchtower keeps talking about the growth. Oh, they're coming in by leaps and bounds. We're growing phenomenally. We remember, those of us who were there in the old days in the 60s and 70s and early 80s, the conventions were packed. You couldn't get there early enough to get seats. It was standing room only so many of the times. The place was packed. And so if it was really true that Watchtower was growing by leaps and bounds, what happened to all those children who were raised in the organization? What happened to all the people? People say, oh, they died off. Now you go to a convention and there are way more empty seats than there are conventioners, and that's a shame. That is just the phenomenal hit in your face, the truth about how Watchtower is not growing at all and how Watchtower continues to lie to their gullible members. Thank you, Rick.
Well, thank you, Anne-Marie. So you get good memories too. Well, that's good. Well, anyways, we're so glad.
Rick?
Yes, go ahead, Kurt.
Yeah, just real quick here, enjoying the program. About the door-to-door preaching work, I think you're right about all that. I think it's outdated. Ramapo saying, I don't understand. And I wanted to ask you, do you believe, like I believe, I could be wrong, that jw.org, if they wanted to preach everything to the world, couldn't they do it from jw.org? Anyway, thank you for taking my call.
Yes, they could. I mean, they're doing it already. They have a great, I mean, I have to tell you, some of the quality of video and their live streaming efforts, they're good. I mean, they really are very good. They're very professional. So I'm really wondering, why do they even need this Ramapo? But I mentioned last week, and it could be the case, I did call the Ramapo town office. It looks like there's a little bit of a hold on going forth with the project. Now, that's the information that I basically got from the Ramapo town office. They're allowed to do a little bit of clearing, but the woman told me there's a long way to go yet. They have not been really cleared for the permit. And I got news for you. This could be one of the largest scams in religious history. If they pull out of Ramapo now, and after, squeezing the brothers and sisters for money, I mean, that's a scam. That's what you call a charity scam. It's a known scam where you tell people the money's being used for something of charitable cause, and it's not. It's being used, a lot of that money, I'm sure, is being used to pay off child molestation suits. But I think it's all on hold. Thank you, Kurt.
Hey, Rick, can you hear me okay? This is GG down in Phoenix.
GG, we can hear you, yes.
Hey, listen, at the end of the day, every religion is a business because, they operate like a business. They have business licenses and all that stuff. So at the end of the day, they have employees. So they operate like a business. So the problem with the conventions, Rick, is that and I've been talking about this on the chat, is that the Jehovah's Witnesses are boring. They are boring. And you have to go to a convention for 8 hours. 50% of the people there are handicapped. It's just a boring place to be. And the leadership is boring. Do you really want to go to a party with Stephen Lett and Jared Lowe's? They're boring. And this is what I'm talking about, how the governing body needs new leadership, because the leadership is out of touch with reality. And I always liken the Jehovah's Witnesses to Sears and Kmart. They're these huge, huge companies with all of the potential. They have all of the potential in the world, but everything they touch eventually just turns to crap because they're just so out of touch. And so if you look at, I've always been fascinated with Sears because I look at it and it's like the Titanic going down, slowly. And Watchtower is no different. Every direction Watchtower goes, like a department store, every direction they ruin. They can't even go door to door good. They can't even get the street witnessing good. The street cards. Every department that Watchtower has is subpar. The Sophia and Caleb videos are subpar. If they had great writing, Sophia and Caleb should be the top seller. It should be the best. They should have 200 million views on YouTube. But the writing department is, what I'm saying is that they have all of the potential in the world, like Sears and Kmart, they have everything. But they turn it. It's like, remember the Midas touch where the guy turns everything to gold?
Yes.
Watchtower turns everything to crap. Everything they touch just like turns into excrement. And it all goes back to leadership. They need a strong executive. And when I say, I'm running for governing body, but the point is, there's no one really in charge to say, I'm going to change this religion and make it better. It's a group of 8, 9, 10 men in a committee. And that's how the Soviet Union fell. It was death by committee. Nothing can get done.
Gilbert, I agree 100%. In fact, you're making so much sense. You have Susan and I laughing here. You make so much sense. It's true. Everything they touch, it just doesn't work. I mean, seriously, starts off good, but man, it just goes to crap.
I'll give you an example. In the conventions, I would have a section for anybody between 15 to 22 and all the boys and girls that are publishers. Everybody could go there and have a meetup. So that way you don't have to walk around the convention to scope out single brothers and sisters. Put them all together and do the same thing with the adults. Have dancing class. Listen, I said I would have dancing at the conventions, and I would use Bible text where Moses tells everybody that Jehovah wants everybody happy. I would have everybody dancing. I would have everybody taking choir classes. And I would have Jehovah's Witnesses have talent. I would have a talent show where the congregations would have to send their best talent. I would make it a joyous occasion, and I would charge everybody $100 to get in.
Well, I'll tell you what, you got my vote. It sounds good, but you're making sense. You're making sense.
But you understand what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, I got it. No, I got it. In fact, I'm not even taking it as totally contrived comedy. I'm taking it as a fact, is what you're saying.
Yeah. Because Rick, if you run a business, if I run a business, if you ran it like Watchtower and you were boring, come on, the writing is on the wall.
Well, you got that one right.
Gilbert.
Yeah.
Hey, Gilbert.
Hey, we got thank you, Gilbert. We've got, it looks like we got area code. It looks like 513. You want to come in? Go ahead. I think it's a sister. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to talk to Gilbert. We've talked for probably 300 hours altogether, believe it or not. And the fact is, Watchtower is destroying families. I've got congregation records, Rick, from like 1990. And I look at them, and I know, because I didn't leave till 2005, so I can look at the records and see exactly what happened. Do you want to know what happened?
You go ahead and tell me.
90% of the kids left. 60% of the marriages, more than national averages, ended in divorce, okay?
Wow.
And 30% of them were disfellowship. The whole congregation was pretty much a ghost of what it used to be. I'm talking, should I mention the name of the congregation?
Sure, go ahead.
The Batavia congregation on 132 outside of Cincinnati, Ohio. That's right. It's just terrible. Then I went to another congregation, supposedly the best in the state of Ohio. And it happened to be in a little burg called Bethel. Bethel congregation. It was even worse. They had elder sons stealing out of the collection box, forming burglary gangs, arrested by the police. The elders convinced the police not to put them in jail. And then 2 years later, these kids are in Brooklyn, Bethel. That's a fact. I don't know what the hell is going on in this organization. It has nothing to do with God, period. You've got the influence. You can do whatever you want.
Well, amen to that, brother. Well, thank you for chiming in with us. Thank you for chiming in.
Thank you. King of the Dog, by the way, just in case you want to blame someone, okay?
Go ahead. We have a sister, then we have another. Go ahead, sister, first.
Hello?
Yes, go
Hello,
ahead.
is that me?
That's you, yeah.
Hi there. So I was baptized in 95, and just been fading over the past 3 or 4 years. But the conventions were pretty much disaster for me and my family. But there were a few of them that I liked. Like there was one that focused on the book of Daniel, and I felt like I just was finally getting some sort of knowledge, and but then it went downhill after that, and it was just very basic and the same thing over and over and over again, and so it's taken 30 years of my life, and I was just always waiting for Armageddon and putting off my my career that I had started before, and so I feel like half of my life is just gone, and so now I'm trying to focus on getting it back, even though I'm almost 60 years old. I'll be 60 years old this year, and so I'm thinking, I maybe got 20 years left, so it was a disaster for me. And but the only redeeming factor of this organization is that now I have a working knowledge of the Bible. And so I can actually look at the Bible and say, okay, I understand the history of it, but I understand that I was told their interpretation of it. But I can look at that and it's exposed to me now. And I can see that their interpretation is an agenda, so that they can, they're basically building up their empire, and the Bible exposes them so much because, Jesus said, not to trust in men, the Bible is very specific about that. And so now looking back, I can see how they use everybody. And, I hope my family can see it too. I've talked to them about it. And so it's just kind of a disaster that it's been, but I don't think that this is the end. I think after we finish up here, that we'll remember everything, and this will be an education and a lesson. For me, that it wasn't just 30 years, wasted. This has to be an education. There has to be some reason why we've gone through this. I don't know about y'all, but that's what I feel.
Well, that's very nice. Now, I think hold on one second. I think that this sister, this is the first time you called in, sister?
Well, I called in one other time 3 or 4 months ago, but I was kind of under another alias. And so, but basically I'm speaking from the heart right now. And so I really don't want to give out my.
That's okay. No, I'm not going to even ask you, but I just want to say thank you for coming in. Okay, we had another brother. Hold on, Zach.
What she said.
Thank you. We had another person. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Hi, Rick. Hey, I'm a first-time caller on your show, and I was a witness. Can you hear me?
Yeah, again, yeah. You're on with us.
Okay, and I was a witness in the 80s. It's funny. Well, you would think that technology, TV, everything, helps companies nowadays. I think it's been the biggest demise for the Jehovah's Witnesses. The JW broadcast. Again, back in the 80s, you had no idea who the quote faithful and discreet people were. Slave was. You know who the slave was. To see these guys on TV, David Splain, Anthony Morris. We'll get to Anthony Morris in a bit. But this is the irony of what I see, how these guys are being exposed for who they really are. They talk about persecution. People, the witnesses being persecuted in Russia, all over the world. But what did Jeffrey Jackson do in the Australian Royal Commission? They asked him, are you spokesman for God? His answer was, well, that would be a presumptuous thing to say. Jared Loesch, being asked to subpoena to court, denies it because he says, according to the court documents, he has absolutely no authority in the Jehovah's Witness organization. These guys hide behind locked doors, but they expect the sheep to be persecuted, to be punished, for them to say in all their countless Jehovah's Witness rhetoric that you cannot understand the Bible without the governing body's explanation or view. When Garrett Loesch on a JW broadcast Jehovah and Jesus trust the governing body, so should you. And now you see that you would think that these guys would step up in the news, say, yes, we are who we are. And these are people that say that the U.S. government are going to be, hunting. You look at the JW broadcast dramas and how they use the fear tactics of, hey, the witnesses are in here, and you got the SWAT teams, looking for them underground, and yet when it comes down to it, they're cowards. And now the fact that Tony Morris is gone, and again, this is the true religion. Well, why not be truthful then? Why not explain what happened? Again, this is Christ's brother that we're talking about. Not even according to them, not even Moses or David or Joshua, not even they're going to be in heaven, but Tony Morris is, and yet they can, when it comes down to it, they're all cowards, all of them. But they expect the sheep to keep being slaughtered out in the field.
Well, amen to that. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing that with us. Very good. We appreciate you calling in here to the Six Screens. Don't you be a stranger. You come back and see us.
Hey, Rick, thank you.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, go ahead. You're on.
Hey, Rick, the organization has no cross, it has no charity, has no prayer, has no Holy Spirit. It's a fraud. It's misdirecting people's religiosity for its own agenda. And they need to wake up out of that. They were programmed to be adversarial to the real church. It's a Masonic function, and we're trying to snap them out of that strong delusion that they're under because it's a demonic spell. The Watchtower is a tarot card. So you're thrown into a witch's cauldron without understanding that. That comes from Simon Magus in Samaria. It comes from the lesser key of Solomon witchcraft. That's what Solomon got into. His wives tricked him. He had the 666 talents of gold, and he lost all of it. So the witnesses go through this suffrage. It's a suffrage pyramid, a pyramid scheme of suffrage that they're dividing their resources to this group of charlatans at the top. And even our own government is based on this. The New World Order is the author of the New World Translation, the way they took Christ out of it. The blood of Jesus has been removed from it for a reason. And I thank you for your work, and I pray for your team. Thank you very much, Rick.
Well, thank you. Well, always good to hear from you. Always good to hear from you. Well, anyways, you're on JW World News. Susan, anything here got you fancy here tonight?
Well, they mentioned the Australian Royal Commission, and to show what liars they are, Jeffrey Jackson showed up to Australia 2 weeks before he was called to the Royal Commission. And he said, well, his dad lives in Australia, and he went to visit his dad. But what they didn't tell you was he hadn't seen his father in 35 years. So why would he show up into Australia 2 weeks early, not too close to his dad? Were they kind of coaching him on what to say? I wonder.
Well, that's exactly right, Susan. You never get the whole story. Well, I'll tell you what, we try to give you the stories here on the Six Screens, JW World News, and that's what you tuned into. And, if you guys ever wondered, have you ever really wondered, why is it that so many of us have this obsession? Why is it we have this feeling that we can't get enough information out of the Watchtower? I'm not sure why, but honestly, I feel that, if you're in an organization for as long as some have been, I was in for 60 years of my life. It's behind me now, but how do you just shake that loose? How do you just rattle it out of your mind? It's very, very difficult. And why is it that we're drawn to this? Have you thought about it? Well, there's a lot of reasons. I'm going to give you a few, and maybe the audience, maybe you guys have some thoughts too, but don't speak up until I have you come on, okay? Just hang in there. I'll have to put it on lecture mode, but just hang in until I'm done, and then I'll bring you in. So I'm just thinking, why do we have this infatuation, this obsession? Why is it that we keep talking about what's going on in the Watchtower? Well, it's because so many of us have been hurt. We have been hurt from this organization. Many people didn't get a career. They didn't go to college. They never planned for the future. And the future's here today, and now they're hurting. They've been indoctrinated. They had it drilled into their psyche for years that they were in the truth. And, you know, many people, they've been so hurt by it. I mean, it's hard to shake it loose, like I say. And it's very difficult. You say, okay, get rid of it, stop it. I mean, it's been part of a life for so long. And what I'm thinking here is this is one of the reasons why I do it, because I'm trying to help people not get involved with this organization. I have this sense of urgency to let people know how difficult it is. Go ahead, you're on with us. Yeah.
Hey, this is Jesse in Yuma.
Yes, Jesse.
Good evening.
Yes, good evening.
Hey, you know what? You don't have to justify. I don't think none of us apostates have to justify ourselves. Look at country music. Let me tell you that it hurts so bad. I mean, country music. We're always talking about the hurt, you know. And so we'll be singing this old country song for the rest of our lives. We've been hurt so bad. So I don't think we have to justify it to nobody why we're always talking about the organization. But I have a question for you about the conventions.
Sure.
And maybe maybe the chat, maybe they can respond. But, you know, do you think, you know, we have the central bank digital currency and everything happening in the world. Do you think pretty soon the witnesses, for security reasons, they're going to have to get a chip to get into the convention, or use that what's that black box called on that product? It's on all the products.
Yeah, I think that's possible. I think that's if it keeps going the way it is, they're going to be so.
Wouldn't that be an irony? Wouldn't that be an irony? That would be such an irony that they would default to a chip or some kind of electronic device to get into the conventions. You know, it sounds so Orwellian, but yeah, I could see it happening too. Yeah, I just wanted to share that question with you. See what the audience thinks if that's what's going to happen in the conventions in the future, probably to keep us apostates out.
Well, you have to wear their badge now. You got to put that badge on, and that gets you in. But I mean, you can download one of those badges right online. You can make your own badge. So I'm sure they're afraid that apostates are going to get in there.
You could copy it. You could counterfeit it to get in.
Sure.
If you wanted to.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, Jesse. Well,
thank you.
Well, thank you. My goodness, always good to hear from Jesse. My goodness. Well, you.
Joey.
Go ahead, Joey.
Yeah, that's all they do now with those lapel badges. They print them out. They don't supply them anymore. My wife, for the last 2 or 3 years, she supplied the whole thing, used the stinking ink, and I was like, golly, I'm having to pay for the ink for this crap. Anyway, you know, and she had to do all that. They don't supply the lapel badges anymore. They're done. But one of the reasons why I keep on with what I'm doing, I just don't drop the whole thing. You know, sometimes I think about it. But with this Pennsylvania thing going on, you know, I've got two, when I was growing up, I've got two men, you know, they're men now, but I went out in service with them. They were like 10 or 12 years old. And I'm like 90% sure, I'm 100% sure on the other one, on the first, and the second one's about 85 or 90%. Them were abused by an elder back in the 80s, you know, and I went out in service with those little dudes. You know, I took them fishing, I took them hunting, we trumped it. They lived right beside me. We went out, you know, shooting slingshots and stuff, you know. I want to see them fry. You know.
Well,
that's all I got.
Well, no, that's good, Joey. I want to thank you too for sending me all the information that you do. I'm going to get into that in a little bit here as we talk about Morris a little later on. But thank you, Chewy, for coming in and being with us tonight. Always good to hear from Chewy from Oklahoma. Well, let's see. All right, we're kind of skipping around here tonight, but I don't know if you guys saw this or not. But this completely, my mind wanders. It really, really does. Maybe your mind wanders too. But have you seen what the organization is doing lately? It's right on their website. They now are putting museums. The organization is creating new museums as we speak. They're putting them in 35 countries. Did you know that? I mean, I knew they had a museum in Brooklyn. Dick Boygan and I visited it, but now they're talking about museums in 35 countries where they're going to have old Bible literature from the Watchtower and magazines and what have you, little artifacts and things of that nature. I'm looking at this as another way to raise money. That's all I can see. I can't see that, people are really going to be so hepped up and so, hey, let's go to the Watchtower Museum. This is a way. This has got to be a way to raise money, just like they're trying to raise it for Ramapo. Oh, friends, let's get our museums. We need money to build a museum. So that's what I think is going on with them. I mean, just another money-making scheme, but also as a way to launder money. I could think of that today. You have all of these different countries. You can siphon money through each country and keep it. I mean, if they open a museum in the Cayman Islands, I'm going to get very, very nervous. But I'll tell you what, this is a way they could be laundering money through the different museums. I'm sure they're going to set them up as all little corporations. But who really, is it really worth setting up a Jehovah's Witness museum? What do you think, Susan?
Well, where are they going to get their literature from? All these old books and tracts and so forth. They were supposed to destroy anything before 1985, wasn't it? 1985?
Susan, I have to tell you, that's part of what I was going to say. I'm thinking this could also be a scam. Now, they are making little museums. We do know that. You can get right. I'm going to play a video. Let me play you a video of the museums. I do have that here. So why don't we get that up right now? And we're going to play a video of the museums. Let me just see where I put it now. I did have it here somewhere. So let me just see where that video was of the museums.
Hey, I think I can tie these two subjects together.
Go ahead, Rob.
I think one of the reasons that ex-witnesses are so worked up and keep on and on with all of this is they have all this literature, and we're trained to do research, and we research stuff. We like studying history and whatever it is somebody wants to study. And I also think they might be wanting to try to collect up all this literature and hide it or put it away so it isn't out there for everybody to see.
Well,
where they can compare old literature with what they're saying now.
I'll tell you what, you said the secret word. The duck came down. It's going to give you a gift. It's going to give you a gift. Do you like Dunkin' Donuts?
Oh no, thanks anyway.
The duck came down. You said the secret word. The secret.
What was it?
It's hiding literature. You said that. It's hiding literature. That's the secret word we had for tonight. Every week on the 6 Screens, we have a secret word.
Yeah.
So
I hid all mine in a dumpster about 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah, well, the reason why I bring this up, and the reason when Susan made her comment, see, this is another way for the Watchtower. Now what they're asking, I'm going to read you some announcements soon from Atlantis, this insider at the Watchtower. He sent me some announcements for the month of March. And in the announcements, they're talking about send your old literature in and any artifacts you have to the Watchtower so they can put it in these museums. This is another way of getting all of the old literature out of the Kingdom Halls and making it sound like they're going to do something with it. You follow me? Yeah.
Yeah.
So these guys are very sneaky. I'm telling you, you got to watch every move they make. So here they are. I just think it's another scam. Help us. They're already starting to ask for donations. They're already starting to ask for donations for the museums. I mean, how much can you really ask for? This is crazy to me. Yeah, yes, Dick.
Yeah, just a quick thought. We know that the Watchtower would send some of their brothers out to all the Christian bookstores to buy up all the old copies of old witness literature so that they wouldn't be caught with their pants down. Thanks, Rick.
Well, hold on, Dick. Now, I know you had a very scary experience in one of these Watchtower museums. Would you care to share that with the audience?
You mean the time that we went and I got sick halfway through because I couldn't stand the lice?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going through with you, and you were, doing all the different little cubby holes they have and looking at their BS or their propaganda. And I went like halfway through, and I said, Rick, I'm getting nauseous. I'll meet you outside. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, when you know lies are lies, then it's really hard to take. It's really hard to take.
Well, you and
I couldn't make it through.
Well, no, you and I were walking through it was at 25 Columbia Heights, Brooklyn, New York. This was back in 2013. You and I went down there, and we got inside the Watchtower, and we wanted to see the museum. So we started walking through there, and I'll tell you, I can remember that all the lies they had, the first thing they had was in the museum, they had, well, of course, they're going to start from the beginning. So they show Charles Taze Russell, and they say how he became a witness, but there was nothing about Maria Russell. I found that fascinating. There was nothing about Maria Russell. My goodness gracious, she was the wife of Charles Taze, but they didn't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole. But I remember we're going through a museum, and then we got to the Purple Triangle. And they have like a little setup where you get these bars. You can look like you're in jail, like the witnesses were in the Holocaust. I'm not making fun of it, friends. And I know some witnesses were murdered. It's terrible, along with Jewish and gay people and what have you. But that's not the point I'm trying to make. The point I'm trying to make is they have a little exhibit where you can walk and kind of get behind the bars, and you can take pictures of you behind bars. I noticed you were getting very nauseous. I thought you were going to faint. I says, Dick, should we get out of here or what? And you said, Rick, I'm getting very sick. I am getting nauseous. It was making you sick, wasn't it, Dick?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why it's such a blessing to have 6 screens and all the work that you and Sue do and have been doing it for 17 years, because people don't have to go through it if they're being told the truth. And everything that comes across on the 6 screens is the truth. If it wasn't, if we were bomb blasting the Watchtower, they'd have an attorney on us, like in a flash. And they've never, ever done that. They have never come on 6 screens to debate us. No governing bodies, no elders, nobody, because they're afraid of us, because we have the truth. 6 screens has the truth. So Rick and Sue, you've been a blessing to thousands of people, particularly myself.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you very much. You want to say something, Susan? You're all set? Okay. Yeah, no, we've got, boy, I'll tell you what, friends, the lines are lighting up. We got people calling in from all over the world. I'm not, exaggerating here. We've got hundreds of comments on YouTube. Friends, I'm sorry we can't comment. We got people listening on Facebook. We're on 7 different platforms tonight, so we can't really see all of this. But I want you to know we really appreciate all your comments on Facebook, and we appreciate them. I've got 7 computers running here at the 6 screens, just trying to keep track of all of this. But I want you to know we appreciate everyone chatting, everyone making comments, and I wish we could write back to all of you and let you know what we think. But I did want to bring this up that, this museum thing, this is another way the Watchtower can ask for more money by building these museums. And I mean, who wouldn't? I mean, if you're a Jehovah's Witness, wouldn't you like to contribute to a museum of the Watchtower? It's a great scam. So, they're asking for old books, brochures, records, tapes, videos, artifacts, like an artifact. You see, but what would an artifact be, Rick? Well, remember, I can think of many right offhand, but an artifact, remember those bags they used to carry around at Watchtower Wake, 5 cents? They have little things like that.
The Cole Porter stuff?
The Cole Porter stuff, all of that, Susan. So they're looking for that. They kind of want to take it out of Kingdom Halls. A lot of Kingdom Halls have this stuff laying around. They don't want it laying around. that they want you to send it to them so they can kind of either put it in the museum or just kind of get rid of it. So anyways, I want to bring that up to your attention tonight. Another way that the Watchtower is scamming people. You're on with us. Go ahead.
Hello.
Go ahead.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Russell's wife, Maria, and I don't know, maybe I've brought this up before, but this is one thing I found out in all my Watchtower research. You know, Brother Russell's father was married to Maria's sister, you know, and they had a child. So, you know, that had to cause a lot of rifts in the family, you know, because they had to have a child. Some people think that might have cost Brother Russell a lot of money because his father would have let this daughter, you know, inherit their finances. But, you know, I mean, there had to be like, what, 30 years age difference? I mean, if a brother at the hall did that, don't you think they'd say something to two? Could you imagine an older man and his son married two sisters? Don't you think they'd have something to say about that? I know that was a different thing.
Well, let me get this clear. Let me just, because I'm not quite sure what you said. So let's roll back a little bit here. So you're saying that Brother Russell, Charles Taze Russell, his father was married to Maria.
Sister.
Yeah.
Sister.
You didn't know?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, you didn't know that?
No, I didn't know.
Well, I know.
Yeah.
No, it's a fact. It's a fact, Rick. Believe me, it's true. He was married, yeah, because they were friends. But she was, you know what? And honestly, I think she might have been a year or two younger than Maria. But yeah, they were married, and they had a daughter. But you know, I don't know. I'm not sure. I've read books about Russell, but they said, like I'm saying, it said the cause. I don't, not to say he was angry about it, but because you know they ended up splitting up, Maria and Russell. You know, this had to cause some issues, and then, like I said, he actually had a child with this woman. And because I understand it, that when, you know, if you read the history, they say like Brother Russell, he got rid of all his business interests. Well, they probably all went to his father. So because they said it could have been an issue, and Brother Russell's father, he probably left a lot of assets to his wife and his young daughter. She would have still been a child. I can't remember what year he died. He lived to be pretty old. But yeah, well, he had a lot of problems in his household, let's just say. But I mean, back in those times, my understanding, a man marrying a woman that much younger than him was more common than, you know, wasn't looked at maybe the same as it is today. But I just found it interesting. You know, you can look it up. It's a fact.
Well, no, I never heard of it. But thank you for sharing that with us, Mike. Thank you. See that? I tell you all the time, you're a very knowledgeable man. And I appreciate what you share with us here. That's what we like. We like it when you come on and do that because you have a lot of knowledge. Thank you, Mike. Thank you. All right. Well, let's take a look here and see what else is going on behind the curtains of the Watchtower. Well, I mean, the biggest story this week, I mean, it still is big. It has to do with Anthony Morris III, Tony, as we know him, Tight Pants Tony, well, being removed from the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses. On February 22nd, 2023, well, that's just a couple of weeks ago, Anthony Morris III was officially removed from the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses, and the organization made the announcement with a short notice on its website and said that the news of the departure was announced at the world headquarters. So evidently what they did is, you know, like in morning worship with the Bethelites, they said that, you know, Tony Morris is no longer a governing body member. So we all know that. We all know that. So, you know, there's many, I'll tell you all this week, all I've been seeing online is why he was removed. And, you know, the witnesses, not only ex-witnesses, but even many Jehovah's Witnesses in good standing, the rank and file, they're asking too. But anyways, the announcement was up on jw.org, but then it was taken down. It was only up there for a few days, and I'm wondering why they took it down. But there's many. I'm going to give you some thoughts on what people are saying, but friends, we do not know. I will give you some information on what I do know, and an insider from Watchtower did give me some information, but still it's a little hazy. I'll share that information in just a little while. But, you know, I'm looking at all the reasons that I see coming across, like Reddit, JWN, YouTube, Facebook. I'm trying to tabulate all of these reasons why many are thinking that Tony Morris was removed from the governing body. And of course, it was quite quick and sweet, so to speak. I mean, not much was said about it on Watchtower website, but just to give you an idea, many people are really passing around. It could be rumors, it could be true, who knows? But some of the things we're hearing is quite interesting. Of course, the first thing on the list is alcoholism. You know, Susan and I, we discussed that. And, you know, I don't really know if it would be for alcoholism. And Susan, what do you think about alcoholism?
You know, I know that's number one as far as popularity goes, but I just don't think so. You know, when I look at Judge Rutherford, he was a known alcoholic, and they just hid him at Besserine. So I'm sure if they really wanted to hide Tony, they could do that somehow and send him to some branch office or whatever. I personally don't think so.
Well, yeah, in fact, but, you know, more people online are thinking that. But, you know, then another story that came across. Now, friends, I'm just telling you, these are stories. I'm going to call them rumors. I'm going to call them just whatever you want to call them, but don't take it to the bank and cash it, because I'm not sure. Nobody really knows right now why Tony is no longer a governing body member. But also, all this week, I've been seeing on these forums and even on YouTube that it's been stated that his daughter-in-laws, Tony Morris' daughter-in-laws, plural, he has two of them, he has two sons. So both daughter-in-laws accused him of getting drunk at family gatherings. That is one thing that's out there. But don't say for sure that's it. I'm not saying that's it, but I'm just giving you some. I just thought it would be neat to talk about some of the things that are floating around that I have heard. I've also heard that Tony Morris' sons are being investigated for allegedly covering up his addiction issues. That I have heard. I also have heard that perhaps Tony Morris was in disagreement with other governing body members about certain things, and they didn't like that. So we've been hearing a lot of things, and I'll share some more things with you. Some are saying that he got in some type of an altercation. I mean, I don't know if it was a fist fight, or let's just go with an argument at this point with Stephen Lett. I heard that. And then I also even heard, if you can believe this or not, that he was removed. Well, of course, some are putting the Pennsylvania. I think, Susan, that's what you're thinking, right?
Yeah, that's my number one. If his name is involved in any of those cases, and there's 9 so far, I assume there's going to be a lot more. Even if they're not in Pennsylvania, what if they're in Oregon or another state that he's been involved in when he wasn't a circuit or district overseer, whatever he was. But if he was involved in any of those cases and it was found that he was either one of the molesters or he helped cover it up, he's in big trouble. So his sin would go into the rest of the governing body. And so they have to get rid of him before the trials ever start, because they can say, well, we're going to call they could say, well, Anthony Morris is no longer a governing body member, and it'll save their hides. So that's why they're doing it now, because all this Pennsylvania thing is happening pretty quickly.
Well, they have it. Well, that's that. Well, Susan, I think a lot of people too, they do think that the Pennsylvania event, where Pennsylvania is cracking down now on Jehovah's Witness elders, 500 congregations plus in the state of Pennsylvania. Their elders have to come forth with their records. And most people too do think, other than alcoholism, Pennsylvania is number 2. But I heard something that is really over the top. Now, I can't, you guys do what you want with this. But some are even saying, see, this is why it's rumors. So don't, it's fun. We can talk about it. We can speculate, but that's all we're doing. But some even have thought that Tony was removed because he didn't want Serena Williams remaining a Jehovah's Witness. I don't think that has any play at all. But some are saying that that's one of the reasons he was saying Serena shouldn't have been baptized as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. That I have heard as well. That I'm not going to put any credence in that at all. But I'm just giving you some of the some of the things. But the other thing that comes into play here is what are active Jehovah's Witnesses? We know what, ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, all of us that have left the Watchtower, we know what we have heard. But how about ex-Jehovah's Witnesses? Do they care about this? Well, there seems to be mixed feelings on this. I've been on some of the JW sites on Facebook where they're writing to one another. I've had people call into the program here last week, and they're saying that, yeah, they are concerned. They're talking about it kind of amongst themselves. But then, of course, I'm hearing also that the average witness doesn't even care. There's not even a single mention of Tony Morris in the congregations. So, you know what I'm thinking here, friends? You just roll the clocks back. Just take and roll the clocks back. Let's go back 5, 10, 15 years ago. Nobody really knew who the governing body was. Many Jehovah's Witnesses couldn't even name a single governing body member. The governing body is really only something known to the Jehovah's Witnesses in the last few years, really, since they got on streaming. So that's what I'm saying. They don't realize who their governing body even was. When I was a witness, I was just fellowshipped in 2015. I'm sorry, 2005. That's when Satan kicked me out of the organization. But, back then, you'd be hard pressed to find a witness to even name 2 or 3 governing body members. Seriously. The witnesses never knew it. It's only because of streaming. It's only because of JW streaming and all these broadcasts are doing from their studios that people even know who they are today. So the average Jehovah's Witnesses, they have no clue to why Tony Morris was relieved of duty. I mean, he was fired. Let's go with that. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you something. The whole governing body could be arrested, and the Jehovah's Witnesses wouldn't even bat an eye. The Jehovah's Witnesses, rank and file, they're on autopilot. They really don't deal with any mistakes or misgivings that happen in the Watchtower. So you're never going to hear an announcement from the Watchtower on why Tony Morris was removed from the governing body. But I'm going to tell you something. Now, I'm not going to mention no names here tonight, but I did get information from an insider. I'm not mentioning no names. This person wants to remain totally, I'm even kind of afraid to even mention this. But the information I got is Tony was, of course, we know he was let loose as a governing body member, but it just wasn't that easy. He had to sign a declaration to the effect that he would not go public with what he knows. So that I do know. So friends, that, first of all, let's just talk about that. When you sign a declaration of that nature, this is something that's going to cost the party that's contracting with you not to say anything money. This means Tony Morris got a sum of money from the Watchtower. That I'm willing to say. So he had to sign a declaration that he wouldn't go public. The Watchtower offered him money to do that. He's got information they don't want Tony to share. So that I can say, that's pretty basic, right? So I wanted to bring, did you want to say something? Go ahead, Carl, you're on with us.
Hello, I was going to ask you, do we know that Tony Morris was removed? Do we know that he's no longer a member of the Bethel family? How do we know that he didn't request to step down?
Well, we don't know that. We don't know that, Zach. The only thing I am saying, and I hate to always say a reliable source. Everyone says that, but information was sent to me. Information, and this is how we have to operate in the ex-witness world. I think it stinks. Now, nobody really wants to come forward. No one wants to name anybody. No one wants to use their names. It makes it really difficult to even do a news program. But a reliable source.
isn't exactly what they said, that he is no longer a member. I mean, it's not saying he stepped down. It's not saying he was removed. It's really neutral. I mean, it just, that doesn't say anything really.
Yeah, I mean, that's all there is. That's all there is. And I mean, they don't have to share it with us. They really don't. I mean, we're the apostates, we're the opposers, but you know, they should share it with the Jehovah's Witnesses. And I mentioned this last.
I think he's too much of a loudmouth. I think just given time, it'll come out. He'll say his side of something that is not going to be the same as what the governing body wants.
Well, I do agree. I do believe that eventually everything does come out. Somebody starts talking. Somebody knows something. But I have to say that
he's not. Yeah, he's not going to keep his mouth shut. He's gonna talk. It'll get around eventually.
Oh yeah, it will, and we'll find out the reason for it. And whatever it was, I mean, it's only anybody's guess right now. But this source did give me that information, and I'm looking forward to hearing this source give me more information. I was in contact today by email, and I was hoping I could have had something by tonight, but I don't. So, but anyways, he is removed. Whether he is out of Bethel right now, nobody knows that. But I'm going to tell you what, if he is still in Bethel, he is the third monkey on Noah's Ark. He has got to feel very much out of place. He's not going to fit in. Yes.
Yeah, you know, the Watchtower learned a big lesson with Ray France, and you kick somebody out who has insider information. They write a book, and thousands of Jehovah's Witnesses leave the organization. So the Watchtower learned. So that I'm almost positive, can't say for sure, that his severance package, the money that he gets probably per year, will be hush money. Thanks, Rick.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. I mean, it's you know, not only that. I mean, I don't think he's leaving with a mere $10,000. That's what Ray Franz left with. It was written up in Time magazine. He left with $10,000. Now that was back in 1980. So I mean, you know, $10,000 back then, you know, it wasn't too bad. I mean, it wasn't like a lot of money, but it still was enough to get a guy straightened out a little bit. But I wouldn't be a bit surprised. I'm telling you right now. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if Anthony Morris got $1 million. It wouldn't surprise me at all. And not only that, but he also was a Marine. So, you know, he has benefits with the VA. He might even be on some type of a pension. So, you know, I mean, he's not hurting. He's not hurting like Ray Franz was. So that's my thoughts on it. Do we have 513? Do you want to come in? Go ahead, sir, sister.
Yeah, unfortunately,
I'm sorry. I guess this is. I'm sorry. This is a brother. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I am a fader, not a brother. Anyway, where's Zachary at? I was hoping to talk to him again. Did he leave already?
No.
Zach, you want to say hello to you? Well, should I call you brother? Or you want to say you want to say hello to Fader?
It's your best friend, King of the Dots, Zach.
King of the Dots.
I don't reckon. I didn't hear what you said.
I said you're my best friend, buddy.
I don't recognize you.
I like you. I want to hear a thought. I want to hear something. What is your main concern currently? I mean, I really want to hear.
Well, I'm interested in what everybody else is interested in. I'm interested in
what's your main concern, Zachary?
I'm interested in what happened to Tony Morris. What's the deal there? Just like everybody else.
Of course. I think they already addressed that, but logically, they're going to take care of him, right? Hello? I'm hearing Clinton.
I don't know. I've never been at that level, so I don't know. I don't know what they would do with him.
You're at my level, Zach, so you're way up there, okay?
Well,
King of Dots. This
Tony
is
Morris.
King of Dots. This is
Way,
Rick
way
Ferrin.
up there.
This is Rick Ferrin, King of Dots. What's your?
I want to know, Zach. I mean, your main concern is what's going to happen to Tony Morris. I'm sorry, Rick, if I'm talking over you. I very much apologize. You're the king. But why are you concerned about what's going to happen to Tony Morris? I mean, I am too. I would love to move him in my home right now. I would do that. I would offer that to him. Come and move in with me. I'll take care of you, and I'll sort out your psychological issues. It may take 20 years, but I will secretly tell Rick every step of the way. I would tell Rick everything Tony says. He won't know because he's probably so damaged he doesn't even know what the internet is. Come on, Jack.
So okay, you want to know what my main thoughts are? My main thoughts are what's going to happen in the stock market next week. What's going to happen with derivatives and stuff.
The stock market's going to go up this week. They're going to raise it as much as they can so they can suck as many people into it and then crash everybody's 401k. That's what the plan is, okay? And you know I'm right, Zach. Come on.
Well, I think when the market crashes, it's one of the biggest transfers of power on that day. That's a major transfer of power. But I think that if you can find the nuances and follow the vicissitudes of the market and try to catch those the waves that are not so great up and down, you might have something going on.
Well, do you think it's the right time to be trying to catch an up and down currently with the interest rates are going to go up? I mean, and we're about to ready to try to declare war on China and Russia.
If you're concerned about interest rates raising, I would suggest to you to stay out of the bond market because there's an inverse relationship between the price of bonds and interest rates. If interest rates were down to practically zero the way they were, as soon as they jump a little bit, bonds and other high yield securities drop in value. So those are some of the things I'm concerned about. Besides, will I be able to sing Lobet Dominum one day? That's all.
Man, now on your niche, I know what you're up to, man. You are totally into the financial stuff. I really appreciate it. You and my daughter, my stepdaughter, are you still there? Is anybody still there? Am I talking to myself?
I'm still here. I just muted myself.
My
Sorry.
stepdaughter just got appointed, she's 51, African American, appointed to close her at the PNC downtown headquarters of Cincinnati. And I don't know what that means. All I know is she knows the financial shit. And guess what she did? She totally divested from the stock market. Her 401k and everything. She got the hell out of there.
I think it's dangerous the way you do that because you can everything can fall, everything can be down, and you divest, and you're getting off the elevator on the low floor. So you have to be careful where you jump out at.
I love your talk, man. You should be on MSNBC, buddy. I'll tell you what. You're good. You're good.
Thank you.
You told a lot to me about you, buddy. Okay, I'm going to go off here, and I'm going to say congrats. I'm going to give you something. Okay, man?
Well, look at
Okay,
that.
Rick.
Look at that, Zach. He loves you. King of Dots. He thinks you're a great guy. Well, you might say, well, who is that? He's on. You don't get on YouTube. You're not on YouTube, but he chats in YouTube. He's a prolific chatter on YouTube. Yeah. So he loves you, Zach. That's good.
What is his name on YouTube?
King of Dots.
Oh, I do see his posts.
Yeah.
On your show.
Yeah. Well, that's it. Well, there you go. All righty. Well, anyways, yeah. So I'm glad you.
Rick?
Yes. Go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I was listening to this guy talking to Zach, and I was thinking either he's baiting Zach for the kill, or he really does like him.
He does.
So that was kind of an odd call.
No, I think he was admiring Zach. I don't think so. He knows what he's talking about, and so does Zachary. Rick dabbles in that too, so they're not saying anything that's off the wall.
Yeah.
It's a different language.
I think I know what was wrong with this. I think it's one of Zach's buddies calling in, giving him a pat on the back when there's a bunch of other people that don't like him.
Well, wait a minute. No, but it's not his buddy. He just, Zach, you gotta kind of
I think it was. I think it's one of his buddies.
Well, I mean,
giving him a good word.
Well, you can think what you want, but I know otherwise. But look at.
That's what it sounded like to me.
Whoever you are, let me let you know this. In college, my financial management professor in my junior year, I graduated from a junior college and then went to senior college. My financial management.
What is it you're trying to let me know? Okay.
If you would stop talking, I'll tell you. You're
just talking in circles. You're just trying to tell me you've been called.
My financial management professor made this statement one day when he was trying to get an answer and he wasn't getting the right answer. He said, "What do I do when the chips are down? I call him Zachary." I answered his question. It was right. What can I say to you?
Yeah. Well, no, Zach. Well, that's interesting, Zach. No, it's okay. I mean, listen, that's what we do here in the Six Screens. I mean, there's people that don't like me either. But Zachary, you do have some fans, and it goes both ways.
I listen to Zachary pretty carefully. And
I don't mind.
A lot of stuff he says doesn't add up.
Well, because you probably can't add, my brother.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty funny.
Hey, Zachary, how you doing? I was thinking about you the other night. I was watching YouTube with Billy Carson, and he's going to get a Netflix show with ancient history in Egypt. And I thought, boy, Zachary and I could have popcorn with that.
That does sound wonderful.
I was calling in because a brother I used to know from Jamaica, he has a YouTube. And he's a very scholarly gentleman. And he, last week, called the headquarters of the Watchtower, and he asked them, do you know who the president of the Watchtower is? And he was very polite and very, very courtly to them. And 3 different people could not answer his question. I just thought that was very interesting.
I'm going to put myself in there, please. He's probably talking about the president of the corporation.
Yes, yes.
And they probably just know the governing body.
That's it, which I thought was curious because nobody seems to know about that money side.
Right. Right. That's how it is.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, well, we're going to move it on here, folks. Really, I mean, I'm really glad to see the conversations are going well here on the Six Screens. Lots of people are calling in tonight. I want to get to another story or two before we end the broadcast here tonight, because with Fran and Joe, they'll be coming on next in about 15, 20 minutes with their program, The Outside Story. So by all means, stay tuned to that. But I just wanted to bring up something I wanted to share with you folks tonight that really, I'm not picking on Serena Williams. I'm really not. I mean, she is a champion and a half. I mean, she is a great tennis player. I'm not picking on her at all, but there's something here that's not passing the smell test. I'm going to put a picture of Serena up. If you're on YouTube, you'll see it. If you're on Facebook, you'll see it. Now, Serena this week went to the 54th annual NAAC Image Awards. Well, you say, well, what is the NAAC Image Awards? Well, this is the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. The NAACP, or National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, was established in 1909, and it's America's oldest and largest civil rights organization. I'd probably go myself if I was invited, right? But Serena Williams went, and she was wearing that dress. Take a look at that dress. Now, I'm going to tell you, Serena Williams, she's no stranger to wearing provocative clothing. I will tell you that right up front. Now, look at that slit in that dress. That's just this week. That is a baptized Jehovah's Witness you're looking at right there. So the reason why I'm bringing it up, just stop and think about it. There's women listening to this program tonight that have been in the Watchtower for many years. Now, women would say, if I had the courage to wear something like that around my parents when I grew up as a Jehovah's Witness, well, their mother would have been bearing down on them very badly. And I'll tell you what a witness mother would say. You wear a dress like that, you'll be called a prostitute. You'll be called a slut. You will be made fun of. And you will be making Jehovah look very badly. So the thing is here, I'm not picking on Serena for her tennis abilities, but I'm picking on Serena Williams for, at this point, I'm going to say pretending, maybe that's not the right word, but pretending to be one of Jehovah's Witnesses. There's double standards here, friends, and I'm getting sick of it. I am really getting sick of the fact that the Watchtower is just turning their face. I know, let me tell you something. My sisters, beautiful girls, I had three sisters, and two of them were going to give a talk one night. One was the householder, and one was the person giving the talk. And they couldn't give the talk on the stage. The person, the elder conducting the ministry of the school, said that Sisters Farron, at the time they weren't married, Sisters Farron, they'll give their talk from their seat. My mother was outraged because afterwards she went up to the elder and said, well, why couldn't my daughters get up on the stage? Well, Sister Farron, their skirts were too short. My sisters did not wear mini skirts, believe me. But here we have, them being barred from being on the stage, even the platform at a Kingdom Hall because the brother thought their skirts were too short. Take a look at that. Take a look at that. I mean, double standards? Well, you can call it what you want, but that's what I'm looking. I mean, her baptism, let's just stop and think about this. I want you to put your Jehovah's Witness thinking cap on. You guys had to answer questions before you got baptized. And there was a lot of them. At one time, there's over 200. I don't know if there's that many now. But, they'd study with you. The elders would come and study with you for, a couple of weeks before you got baptized and ask you all these questions. You had to answer them. So, I'm just thinking the elders, if they sat down with Serena Williams and they asked her questions about, her wanting to be a baptized witness, and they go through these questions to make sure you're ready, I can just imagine them saying, after they leave, could you sign my elder's book here? Can I get your autograph? Could you come to my daughter's wedding next week? That they weren't concerned about what Serena really believed about Jehovah's Witnesses. They just wanted her to become a Jehovah's Witness, and the Watchtower doesn't care because I'm sure she's giving them good money. So, this is what I got thinking today. How does the rank and file feel about Serena Williams? Well, Zach, just hold on for a second. Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, hold on for a second. Let me finish and then I'll bring you on. So anyways, we got Serena Williams here. Now, the Jehovah's Witnesses, rank and file, they think that Serena is their sister, right? I mean, that's what Jehovah's Witnesses would think. And can you imagine, they were even thinking that maybe Serena might even invite them over to her house. That's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. Well, it might happen, but I don't know if it would. I don't want to go on the record to say it wouldn't. But, she has no clue. Serena Williams has no clue to what she signed up for. She is now part of an organization that will expect her to put strangers, that is people she doesn't even know as Jehovah's Witnesses, ahead of people that she even knows. And the average person is probably thinking they can just roll up to Serena and start giving her a big hug. Well, I don't think that's going to happen either. But stop and think about this. She made a name for herself. She fornicated. She got unevenly yoked. She stored up her riches on earth. And then after announcing retirement, got baptized in January of this year, 2023, just last two months ago. Now, she's still participating in worldly lifestyle events. There's one right there. She went to that award program. You couldn't do that. So on the other hand, let me just tell you this too. Now, this is if you're a Reddit person, we don't get too many Reddit people in here. But if you're on Reddit, let me just explain something to you. There's a wild card here. Serena Williams' husband is very politically active, and he's pretty sure, he's very, very much into the LGBTQ community. Yeah, that's her husband. Now, she has a little girl.
And he owns Reddit.
Now, let's just stop and think about it. They have a little girl, and she's a cute little girl. She really is. Now, stop and think. The father is big into the LGBTQ community. I'm not saying he's gay, but he supports it. He really promotes it, so to speak. Now, how about the little girl? Where is she going to go? Is she going to go with the dad? Is she going to go with the mother? Because we know what the Jehovah's Witnesses feel toward LGBTQ. But now let me give you another little caveat here. Reddit. Have you guys been on Reddit? A lot of guys listening, a lot of you folks listening here tonight, you've been on Reddit. It's a forum online. Well, let me tell you, Alexis Ohanian, that's the man, that's her husband. He owns Reddit. Alexis Ohanian is an American internet entrepreneur and investor. He is best known as the founder and executive chairman of the social media site Reddit. He also has two other partners, Steve Huffman and Aaron Swartz. But think about this. Reddit has, well, they have they call it subreddit, and it's an ex-Jehovah's Witness site, and there's close to 90,000 ex-Jehovah's Witnesses that write in there. Don't you think that Serena has enough power, being the wife of the guy that founded Reddit, to say, honey, Alexis, get rid of that site. It could be gone in a heartbeat. Really, if the witnesses knew that her husband was involved in that, they'd be saying, Serena, put some pressure on your husband. That's just my thought. Well, what do you think, Zach?
Am I unmuted?
Yeah, you're ready to go. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, several things, Rick. First of all, when you read out that NAACP, I was trying to think of what that was. And then I realized it's the NAACP. I think there's nothing wrong with being associated with that organ or being at an event with that organization. Most witnesses would not be invited. But when you've got somebody who's that kind of a figure, that star like that, then they get invited to things that most of us wouldn't get invited to. I see the dress that she's wearing, and she is showing some leg. It's got it slid up the side.
And chest.
I don't think they would let her give a talk in that dress either. I think they might tell her to give the talk from her seat in that dress. So she's wearing it to some event. And yeah, it shows her leg way up there. I don't think it's, but I don't think you can compare what they allow on the platform at the hall with that. You know what I'm saying?
No, they wouldn't. They wouldn't. But, I hate to come on here because people are going to go, come on, Rick, will you stop picking on Serena Williams? I'm not really, I'm not picking on Serena. I'm not, I acknowledge she's a superstar.
I do feel that you are, but I mean, she's there. She's a big person, big star. She's like the biggest person that nowadays who's in the witnesses. She did her stuff, and now she got baptized. She married someone. She had a child out of wedlock, and you know, when you go through the questions, lots of people have had the same situation, have gone through the same things. But then when they get baptized, now they've got accountability in the witness rules. So she can't do those things anymore without some kind of sanction coming against her.
Well, that's interesting you say that. What are you going to say, Susan? Go ahead.
Exactly. Just as a side thought, I had two daughters. When they were teenagers, and kids when they're teens, they try to push the limits. If I had two daughters and they said, well, Serena dresses like that, why can't I dress like that? And what if you were, you know, any witness mother would have to come up against those questions. How are they going to explain to their daughters, you cannot dress like that?
Tell them if they go to the NAACP awards, they can dress like that, but not at any other time.
Hey, Rick.
Yes, go ahead, Jack. Go ahead, Dick.
Yeah, I hope it doesn't get by a lot of people that NAACP is political. It's very, very political. And if you want to be no part of the world or Satan's organization, you do not join anything that's political. You don't salute the flag, all that stuff. I'm sure Serena Williams knows that, especially if she went through the questions for baptism. NAACP is political. Thanks for
that. NAACP is one of those organizations that existed because of injustices in the system. It means National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. So it's not political in that same way where you've got political parties and people are running for city council or state office or federal office. It's not that same kind of thing. It is an association to advance people that the system tends to keep down.
Yeah, I kind of respectfully disagree with you. The NAACP funds a lot of money to political candidates that are pushing the agenda of Black Lives Matter and other organizations like that.
And NAACP existed long before Black Lives Matter existed.
That's true, but it doesn't.
And Black Lives Matter, remember, also is an organization that exists because of injustices. Black Lives Matter started after the acquittal of George Zimmerman, who murdered Trayvon Martin.
Hey, Zach, I like one of the things you mentioned there about justice. I think a lot of the reason something that was attractive to people when they first found out about Jehovah and witnesses and all that is justice. They want justice. And I think some of the things that keep people going on this is that things aren't fair. You know, it's just not fair in the organization, what congregation you're in, or what kind of elders you have. And it's also different. You know, they don't have a real good organization, which is what they say they're called. We all used to call it the organization. You know?
Well, listen, I've got to break in here. We're coming up on the next program. We're not going to be able to continue this conversation on, but I appreciate everyone coming in tonight. I'd like to keep going with it, but we can't. We do have guests coming on and the program coming up next, so we do have to cut it loose. I want to thank everyone for coming on tonight. I want to appreciate the fact that, people they come out of their busy schedules to listen into the 6 screens. So thank you very much. And all those people too on YouTube and Facebook, thank you very much for coming in and commenting. Like I say, we can't always see all the comments because we're on a number of different platforms here, but thank you for coming forth and speaking up. There'll be no 6 screens Sunday tomorrow. We do it every other Sunday. So listen, if you like this video, if you like what you've heard tonight, why don't you like it, share it, and spread the word about the 6 screens. Let people know we come on every Saturday night in real time. And people that have been leaving the Watchtower, what a good event that is for them to come in and listen to real people talking in real time. So thank you for coming in tonight. And the last one leaving the Watchtower, please turn off the new light. Susan, do you want to say anything before we leave?
I just want to thank everyone everyone that called in tonight, that you make the program. We try to set the agenda, but you make the program. So I want to thank everyone and encourage people. Fran and Joe's program that's coming up next, and even through the night, keep on speaking up, especially if you haven't talked yet. And please may people be aware that if they hear a little still small voice in the background, please let them speak up first, because it's probably the first time they spoke.
Well, thank you, Susan. And thank you for being with me tonight, too. I really appreciate it. It's always good having someone next to me here on the 6 screens. It makes my job a lot easier. Thank you, my beautiful wife, Susan. Yes, go ahead. We got about 1 minute. Go ahead.
Yep, I just wanted to, good that it's only a minute left. I just wanted to say, this is Eric, that it's always appreciative when Susan comes on, and maybe she doesn't always hear it, but she has quite a bit to offer to the 6 screens, and I'm always grateful to hear your wife, Susan, speak up and think. Sometimes she can neutralize a situation, and then it's noticed and it's appreciated.
Well, thank you for saying that.
Thank you, Eric.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Eric. That's very sweet.
Hey, Rick, can I say something about the politics?
Yeah, go ahead. We only got a minute left, Jesse. Go ahead.
Okay, nothing will happen to Serena because the NAACP is a leftist organization. Jehovah is leftist. He is total politics. Jehovah is politics. So if she would have went to a MAGA rally, she would have been DF'd. If she would have been to a Republican rally or a conservative rally, she would have been DF'd. But because it's an NAACP, she could go to an abortion rally and nothing will happen to her. Anything in the left side of the United States, she's okay with it. Prince used to go to rallies too. Michael Jackson was involved in politics, leftist politics. So Jehovah is the left.
I think that Jesus was a leftist too.
Yeah. But okay, I just wanted to say that. I'm talking about in 2023. In 2023, if you're a Jehovah's Witness leftist, nothing will happen to you.
All right, well, that's listen, we'll end it with that. It's very fascinating what you guys have been talking about tonight, and thank you all for coming into the program. Stay with us. We got the outside story coming up next right here on the 6 screens. Tell the network, stay with us. Don't go anywhere. Thank you for coming in and being with us tonight.